Okay, there's the dramatic intro. Marlo here with another video. I'm going to do a series of videos attempting to answer questions people post on logicproanswers.com. In this case, David A. has a question about setting up a dynamic filter so that the filter opens over the course of 4 bars. We're going to use an ES2 for this example, and we'll bring up a preset from the Synth leads. We'll use Vintage Mix. I'm going to go to Polyphonic and add a couple of voices to the synth. Now we'll look at the router. The router is here in the middle section of the ES2, and we can see this patch has 4 modulation routings, each one of these squares being one of those. And we're going to turn off all of the modulation routings just by turning off their targets, except for one. And we're going to set up a simple modulation routing with the envelope 2 as the source. And in this case, we're going to make the target the cutoff frequency of filters 1 and 2. And then we're going to take the modulation intensity slider and slide it all the way up, so we're getting the maximum modulation effect coming from envelope 2 and being applied to the cutoff of filters 1 and 2. So we're going to take a look at the cutoff frequency knobs of filters 1 and 2, and we're going to turn those all the way down so we have the maximum range of change available when the filter becomes dynamic. Now what's going to make the filter dynamic is the attack time of envelope 2, since we've set up envelope 2 as the source. And so the attack time of the envelope is in milliseconds. So we need to figure out a milliseconds value for this length of time, in this case being 4 bars at our song tempo. And the song tempo in this case is 112. So what I like to do is go online and Google milliseconds to beats calculator. And what happens is you'll come up with one of these calculators. There's several of them online, and they're all pretty much equally good. And a millisecond to beat calculator is going to give you a millisecond value at a given tempo. So for example, at 120 beats per minute, a whole note is 2000 milliseconds. So our song being at 112, we're going to type in 112 and we'll see that a whole note is 2142.85716. So we'll just round that up to 2143, and I did a calculation earlier that showed me that was 8572 milliseconds. So we're going to set envelope 2 attack to as close to 8500 milliseconds as we can get. In this case, that would be, we'll set it to 8800 milliseconds. Okay, so with the envelope 2 attack set at 8800 milliseconds, the filter should open in approximately 4 bars. So let's see what happens. Okay, I'm going to click on the region, hit S on the keyboard to solo that region, and then turn on the metronome, and let's get a better idea what's going on. So the filter is opening over the course of the 4 bars. Really what's happening is envelope 2 attack is causing the cutoff frequency knobs of the filter to open over the course of the 4 bars. Of course, if the tempo were different, we would need a different attack time millisecond setting. For a faster tempo, we would go to a faster attack on this envelope, which would be obviously a lower value. Lower millisecond value is going to give us a faster attack. And of course, the millisecond values here go up to 10,000 milliseconds. So if you were at a slower tempo, that might not be enough to give you a 4-bar envelope on your filter. So another way to accomplish this would be going back to the modulation routing, changing the source to mod wheel so that the modulation wheel will now control the cutoff of filters 1 and 2. So if we play some notes on the keyboard, I'm playing notes on the keyboard and moving the modulation wheel and controlling the filter that way. So if we look at the same 4 bars, I'm going to try moving the modulation wheel over the course of the 4 bars. So that's the result that you get. Now, the variation is going to come in with different kinds of patches that sound differently and with different settings to the filters. We'll want to try experimenting with different starting points for the cutoff frequency knobs of the filters and maybe different settings for the modulation intensity slider in the router. So there are a couple of ways to do some dynamic filters in ES2. We're going to take a look in some future videos at more detail about the router and more details about programming the ES2. Okay, thanks for watching.